With its multiple Emmy nominations, richly complex characters, tension-filled suspenseful action, and slow-burning character arcs, The Americans is one sign that the so-called golden age of television may have graduated to platinum. The Cold War spy drama should get bonus points for its well-crafted 80s nostalgia, to say nothing of the myriad of overlapping storylines and powerfully drawn characters. Here, we'll take a look at 10 things you never knew about The Americans. If you enjoy this video, please like it and share it with your friends, and subscribe to TV Web to keep up with the conversation about all of the shows we love. We should note, this video contains a few mild spoilers for The Americans. The Americans is based on a group of real-life illegals. The Americans is about a pair of KGB operatives in deep cover in the United States. The two agents speak perfect English,
have to make sure I don't do any spying around here,
and blend right in with their suburban surroundings, all the while gathering intelligence and running operations for the Soviet Union.
Oh yeah, they're the worst, right?
The show was inspired by the real-life arrest of several illegals, as they are also called in the show, most of them married couples, in 2010. The most famous of the illegals caught in Operation Ghost Stories was Anna Chapman, who is now a TV host and model in Russia, following a US spy trade. The show's creators chose to set the Americans during the Cold War, as it's a period in history where the rivalry between the US and Russia was more pronounced than it seemed in 2010. The Americans was created by a real-life intelligence agent. The realness of The Americans doesn't end there. Part of the show's nuanced credibility, which elevates it above more traditional and familiar spy fare,
James Bond,
comes from the fact that it was created by a real-life ex-CIA operative. A fan of spy novels himself, series creator Joe Weisberg worked for the CIA for 3.5 years. He toyed with the idea of setting The Americans in the 70s because he loves the clothes, but the presidency of Ronald Reagan served the story better, as Cold War tensions often simmered beyond a boil more often than under President Carter. Kerry Russell and Noah Emmerich almost passed on the show. Given the massive amount of love for the show from critics, fans, and award shows, it's crazy to imagine that two of the main stars of The Americans almost passed on it. Kerry Russell, previously best known as the curly lock star of TV's soapy Felicity, has said she was ultimately convinced by the number of layers to the story and characters.
From the pilot on, and how they really genuinely start to fall in love, it just interested me.
Noah Emmerich, brother of movie producer Toby Emmerich, was apprehensive about carrying a gun and a badge in another role.
Stan Beeman, FBI agent, I said, no. And I put it down, really.
He was convinced otherwise by Warrior director Gavin O'Connor, who directed The Americans pilot. The CIA reads each of Weisberg's scripts. Given his history with the organization, the CIA insists on vetting each of Weisberg's scripts at least a month before shooting begins. In a 2013 interview, Weisberg told Slate that the publication's review board had yet to ask him to change anything.
There are a lot of stories, almost endless stories, of Soviet intelligence officers.
What the show gets right and wrong. The CIA even approved a demonstration of real-life surveillance techniques Weisberg gave to his cast and crew. The Washington Post interviewed former CIA officers about what the show gets right and wrong. The show's action is heightened for dramatic purposes. Certainly any sleeper agents who were involved in violent altercations would be whisked home immediately. They say the spy game is mostly a bore. The real-life sleeper agents caught in America would mostly observe and report. One of the ex-field agents interviewed, who began her career as a disguises officer, praised the, quote, nuggets of authenticity that you don't see in other shows. Everything from gadgets to surveillance is done with great care and authenticity, and you can feel that it's not over the top. It's really core to the characters. The show's stars have directed standout episodes, continuing a long TV tradition that has included Breaking Bad,
You're goddamn right,
Grey's Anatomy,
I'm on drugs right now.
Friends,
I'm such a grown-up.
House,
Had a happy go to hell.
The X-Files, Frasier, and even Beverly Hills 90210.
I don't do cameras.
Cast members on The Americans have occasionally stepped behind the camera. The men who play Stan and Philip on the show have both directed important episodes, including Season 3's Clark's Place, which was directed by Noah Emmerich, and Season 5's The Committee on Human Rights, which was directed by Matthew Rhys. David Bowie gave the show his blessing. In Clark's Place, one of the episodes directed by Emmerich, Queen and David Bowie's Under Pressure worked much better in the director's cut than the original choice for music, If I Had You by Dire Straits. As they worked to clear the song, The show's music supervisor reminded producers that Bowie had actually been in touch a year before, saying he loved the show and they could use one of his songs anytime. Oliver North gave so much info, he got a story credit. 80s savvy audiences will of course remember Oliver North for his role in the Iran-Contra scandal that plagued the Reagan administration.
For 18 months now, we have had underway a secret diplomatic initiative to Iran.
In one of the standout arcs on The Americans, Philip and Elizabeth work on an operation involving the U.S. military's support for right-wing rebels in Nicaragua. Oliver North served as a consultant on those stories and gave the show's producers so much detail, they gave the former Marine Corps lieutenant colonel turned pundit a partial story credit.
No complaints, because I had a lot of fun doing it.
New York City usually doubles for Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is practically a character in The Americans, but generally what audiences are seeing on screen is actually uptown Manhattan. The Americans has also used Queens as West Germany. Speaking of New York, the 2015 memoir, How to Catch a Russian Spy, the true story of an American civilian turned double agent, takes place there. The young American at the center of the story often used things he'd learned watching Miami Vice, Magnum P.I., and Goodfellas to fool his Russian handlers.
But I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
500 Days of Summer director Mark Webb purchased the movie rights. Matthew Rhys and Carrie Russell became a real-life couple. In the show, Philip and Elizabeth are put together in Russia in a marriage that's nothing more than a cover. As the show progresses, their feelings for each other become real. Eventually, they are even married, under their real names, in a secret ceremony by a Russian priest. Russell and Rhys have been a real-life couple now since 2013.
Very romantic.
The same year the show first premiered on FX. They have a son together.
It's a very happy ending. And how old is the baby?
The baby.
We hope you enjoyed this look at 10 things you never knew about The Americans. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it with your friends. And subscribe to TV Web to keep up with the conversation about all of the shows we love.